Don't waste another year of your life. Good morning, everyone. Let's get real for a moment. How many of us have spent hours, days, maybe even years stuck in cycles that don't serve us, holding back because we're scared of failing, avoiding hard conversations, or numbing ourselves just to make it through? Here's the hard truth: life isn't waiting for us to figure it out. The clock keeps ticking, and every moment spent hiding from who we truly are is a moment we can't get back. Today, I want to ask you a question. What would it look like to show up for your life this year? Not perfectly, not flawlessly, but courageously, because the only thing more painful than stepping out of your comfort zone is looking back one day and realizing you never really lived it all. So let's stop wasting time. Let's reclaim this year, not by being fearless, but by being brave. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. We think of it as a weakness, a crack in our armor, something to be hidden or avoided. But what if it's actually our greatest strength? What if being vulnerable is the key to living a life that feels real, meaningful, and wholehearted? Too often we wait for the perfect moment to act, to try something new, or to let people see who we really are. We convince ourselves that once we've achieved a certain level of confidence, success, or security, then we'll finally be ready. But here's the truth: perfection is a myth. It doesn't exist, and the pursuit of it keeps us paralyzed. Vulnerability, on the other hand, asks us to show up as we are, messy, uncertain, and imperfect, and trust that it's enough. Think about the people you admire most. Are they flawless? Of course not. What draws us to them is their humanity, their willingness to be real. We connect with their courage to admit when they're scared, to laugh at their own mistakes, or to share a truth that others might shy away from. That's vulnerability in action, and it's powerful. It breaks down walls, builds trust, and creates space for deeper relationships and authentic living. Waiting for the perfect time or perfect version of yourself is a trap. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of not yet. You tell yourself, I'll start that project when I have more experience, or I'll pursue that dream when I feel more confident. But the irony is that confidence doesn't come before action, it comes as a result of taking action. Vulnerability is what gets you moving. It's the leap of faith that allows you to step into the unknown, trusting that you'll learn and grow along the way. Being vulnerable doesn't mean you broadcast every detail of your life or expose yourself recklessly. It's about making intentional choices to show up authentically, even when it feels uncomfortable. Maybe it's admitting you don't have all the answers in a meeting, asking for help when you're struggling, or telling someone you care about how you really feel. Each time you lean into vulnerability, you strengthen your capacity for courage and resilience. Of course, vulnerability comes with risks. There's always the possibility of rejection, failure, or criticism. But avoiding vulnerability doesn't eliminate those risks, it just trades them for a different kind of pain. The pain of regret, of never trying, of never letting people truly know you. When you avoid vulnerability, you close yourself off not only from hurt, but also from joy, connection, and growth. Life isn't about waiting for the perfect conditions to show up. It's about showing up anyway. Vulnerability invites us to live fully, not because we're fearless, but because we're willing to face our fears. It's the birthplace of creativity, innovation, and love. When you stop waiting for the perfect time or version of yourself, you realize you've been enough all along. It's time to stop hiding and start living. In today's world, it's easier than ever to avoid our feelings. We have a buffet of distractions at our fingertips, endless streaming platforms, infinite social media feeds, and the constant pressure to stay busy and productive. These distractions aren't inherently bad after all. It's natural to want to unwind or escape now and then. But when we lean on them too often, they become something more, a shield against the emotions we don't want to face. Think about those moments when you're stressed, sad, or overwhelmed. How often do you turn to something external to numb the discomfort? You might binge watch a show until it's 2 a.m., even though you're not really enjoying it anymore. Or maybe you lose yourself in work, telling yourself you're just being productive, when in reality you're trying to avoid the emptiness that creeps in when you stop. Perhaps it's scrolling endlessly on your phone, refreshing apps as if the next post will somehow make you feel better. These distractions may soothe you as temporarily, but they never address the underlying issues. When we numb ourselves, we're not just avoiding pain, we're also dulling our capacity to experience joy, connection, and meaning. Emotions aren't meant to be selectively muted. If we block out sadness or discomfort, we inevitably dim our ability to feel happiness and love. Numbing creates a false sense of security. It tells us if I don't feel this now, it'll go away, but emotions don't just disappear, they wait. And the longer we ignore them, the heavier they become. Numbing can also rob us of our ability to understand ourselves. Our emotions carry important messages. Anger might be telling us that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness may be a sign that we need to process a loss or seek support. Even anxiety, as uncomfortable as it is, can signal a deeper need for safety or change. When we numb ourselves, we miss these messages. We lose the opportunity to learn from our emotions and use them as a guide for growth. This isn't to say that feeling emotions is easy, it's not. Sitting with sadness, fear, or uncertainty can feel overwhelming, even unbearable at times. But the act of feeling, truly allowing ourselves to experience our emotions, is what makes us human. It's what helps us heal. The irony is that the more we try to suppress or avoid our feelings, the more control they gain over us. When we face them head on, we take back that control. Feeling doesn't mean wallowing or becoming consumed by emotion. It means acknowledging what's there, giving it space, and approaching it with curiosity rather than judgment. It might look like journaling, talking to someone you trust, or simply sitting quietly and naming what you're experiencing. These practices aren't about fixing the emotion, but about letting it move through you. When we stop numbing and start feeling, we make room for the full spectrum of life. We allow ourselves to process pain, yes, but we also open ourselves to deeper joy, love, and connection. It's a hard path, but it's the only one that leads to true freedom. Life can feel overwhelming when we're constantly pulled in 100 different directions. Every day we're faced with choices how to spend our time, where to focus our energy, and what to prioritize. It's easy to get caught up in what everyone else wants from us: work demands, family obligations, societal pressures. Without a clear sense of what truly matters, we can spend our days ticking off tasks and meeting expectations without feeling any closer to a meaningful life. That's where defining your values comes in. Values are the principles and beliefs that anchor you. They're the compass that points to what matters most in your life. They're not about what society says you should value, but what you truly care about deep down. When you know your values, you gain clarity about who you are and what kind of life you want to create. Without them, you risk drifting, saying yes to things that don't align with your true self and wondering why you feel so disconnected. Defining your values requires intentionality. Start by asking yourself some fundamental questions. What makes you feel most alive? What do you want to stand for? What kind of person do you want to be? Think about the moments in your life when you felt deeply fulfilled or proud what was happening. Chances are those experiences reflect your core values. For example, if helping someone in need made you feel purposeful, maybe compassion or service is one of your values. If working hard on a project brought you satisfaction, you might value growth or creativity. Once you've identified your values, the next step is to align your daily life with them. This is where the real work begins, because knowing your values is one thing, living them is another. It's about using them as a filter for your decisions, both big and small. Before agreeing to something, ask yourself, does this align with my values? Will it bring me closer to the life I want to live? When your choices reflect your values, you'll feel more confident and grounded. Living your values also means letting them guide how you spend your time. Time is our most precious resource, and yet we often give it away to things that don't matter. Without clear values, it's easy to fall into the trap of busyness, doing more without considering whether it's meaningful. But when you prioritize your values, you become more intentional. If family is a core value, you might carve out time for meaningful connection instead of letting work consume all your energy. If personal growth is important to you, you might invest in learning new skills or pursuing experiences that challenge you. Aligning with your values isn't always easy. It often requires difficult choices, saying no to things that don't serve you, even if they're expected or comfortable. It means being honest with yourself about where you're falling short and making adjustments. But it also brings incredible freedom. When your actions align with your values, you experience a deep sense of integrity and purpose. You stop feeling like you're constantly chasing something undefined, and instead you start living in a way that feels authentic and fulfilling. Values are your foundation. They remind you of what's truly important, even when life gets chaotic. When you define your values and live them daily, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your life. Human connection is one of the most profound needs we have. It's what gives our lives depth and meaning, grounding us in relationships that offer love, support, and belonging. But true connection doesn't come easy. It's not built in moments of surface-level exchanges or comfortable agreements. It's built in the messy, vulnerable spaces where hard conversations happen. Hard conversations are the ones we often avoid because they feel risky. They force us to confront discomfort, uncertainty, and even fear. Whether it's addressing a conflict, sharing a difficult truth, or setting a boundary, these moments require courage. We worry about being misunderstood, rejected, or hurting someone we care about. Yet avoiding these conversations doesn't protect our relationships, it weakens them. Over time, the things left unsaid create distance, resentment, and misunderstanding. When we avoid hard conversations, we trade short-term comfort for long-term consequences. For instance, think about a time when you felt unappreciated by someone close to you but chose not to say anything. Maybe you told yourself it wasn't a big deal or that bringing it up would only cause tension. But as time went on, those feelings didn't just disappear, they grew. Eventually, they might have spilled out in an argument or caused you to withdraw from the relationship entirely. The reality is that avoiding hard conversations doesn't make the feelings go away, it simply buries them until they resurface in ways that are harder to manage. Hard conversations are not about confrontation, they're about connection. They are an act of care, a way of saying, this relationship matters enough to me that I'm willing to be vulnerable. When we approach these conversations with honesty and respect, we create an opportunity for deeper understanding. We open the door to empathy, healing, and trust. Even when the outcome isn't perfect, the act of showing up authentically strengthens the bond between two people. Having hard conversations doesn't mean you have to have all the answers or deliver your thoughts perfectly. It's okay to feel nervous, stumble over your words, or not know exactly how the other person will respond. What matters is your intention. When you lead with a genuine desire to resolve an issue, express your feelings, or understand someone else's perspective, it sets the tone for a productive dialogue. These conversations also require listening, not just hearing the words, but truly trying to understand the other person's experience. It's easy to focus so much on what we want to say that we forget to listen. But connection is a two-way street. When we approach hard conversations with curiosity and an open heart, we allow space for mutual growth. Of course, not every hard conversation will go smoothly. Some may end with unresolved tension or even lead to difficult outcomes, but avoiding them altogether guarantees stagnation. Progress, whether in relationships or personal growth, only happens when we face the uncomfortable truths we'd rather ignore. Connection isn't built in the easy moments. It's built when we dare to be honest, to risk vulnerability, and to prioritize truth over comfort. Hard conversations may challenge us, but they also transform us. They remind us of what matters most and help us build relationships that are not only strong, but also real. Perfection is an illusion that keeps so many of us stuck. We tell ourselves we'll take that leap when everything is perfectly aligned and we feel more confident, when the timing is just right, or when we're sure we won't make mistakes. But life doesn't work like that. Waiting for perfection is like waiting for a train that's never going to arrive. And in the meantime, the opportunities, growth, and joy that come from simply starting pass us by. Taking imperfect action is about giving yourself permission to begin, even when you don't feel ready. It's about embracing the idea that progress matters more than perfection. Life isn't meant to be a polished masterpiece. It's messy, unpredictable, and full of trial and error. But that's where the magic happens. Each imperfect step you take is a step closer to the life you want, the goals you're chasing, and the person you're becoming. Consider how often we hold ourselves back because we're afraid of making mistakes. But mistakes aren't failures, they're teachers. Every time something doesn't go as planned, it's an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow. Imagine a toddler learning to walk. They don't wait until they've mastered balance to take their first step. They wobble, they fall, and then they try again. And each time they get back up, they're a little stronger and a little closer to walking. That same principle applies to all of us, no matter how old we are or what we're pursuing. Taking imperfect action also means letting go of comparison. It's easy to look at others and feel like they have it all figured out, but the truth is, no one does. What you see as someone else's finished product is often the result of years of trial, error, and countless imperfect actions. The only person you need to compete with is yourself. Focus on your own journey and celebrate the small victories along the way. Imperfect action doesn't require you to have all the answers or a flawless plan. It simply asks you to start where you are with what you have. Maybe it's finally signing up for that class you've been thinking about, even if you're nervous about not being good at it. Maybe it's applying for a job you're not 100% qualified for, or reaching out to someone you've lost touch with, even if you're not sure how they'll respond. The point is to do something. Action creates momentum, and momentum leads to opportunities and growth that you might never have anticipated. What holds most of us back is fear of failure, rejection, or looking foolish. But here's the thing, not taking action is its own kind of failure. It's the quiet, insidious regret of wondering what might have been if only you tried. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite it. This year doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be yours. Taking imperfect action is a declaration that you're willing to show up for your life, flaws and all. It's about taking risks, embracing the messy middle, and trusting that you'll figure it out as you go. Each step you take, no matter how small, is proof that you're moving forward. And in the end, that's what matters most. So let this year be the one where you stop waiting for the perfect moment. Let it be the year you embrace imperfection, take risks, and show up for your life. Don't wait until you feel ready, because readiness comes through action, not inaction. Don't let fear or doubt keep you in the shadows. Take that first step, however messy it may be, and trust that you'll figure it out as you go. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is the decision to start. So this year, take imperfect action, make it yours. The time is now. Thank you.